Did an emergency plan end up saving someone's life? My dad was one of those guys who prepared for everything. Fire escape routes, earthquake kits, first aid supplies in every room. We had backup plans for our backup plans. Growing up, I thought he was paranoid and honestly kind of embarrassing. Every family vacation started with a 30-minute safety briefing. He'd walk us through the hotel layout, show us where the exits were, explain what to do if we got separated. My sister Emma and I would roll our eyes so hard we practically saw our own brains. At our house, Dad installed these ridiculously loud smoke detectors in every room, including the bathrooms. He tested them monthly, much to our neighbors' annoyance. He kept flashlights in every drawer, made us practice crawling low under imaginary smoke, and drilled us on our home address and phone numbers until we could recite them backwards. The most embarrassing thing was his car emergency kit, this massive red bag that took up half the trunk space. It had everything from jumper cables to emergency food bars to one of those foil blankets that made you look like a baked potato. Road trips with friends were mortifying because Dad would insist on showing their parents his comprehensive safety protocols. He'd pull out laminated cards with our planned route, backup routes, emergency contacts, and meeting points if we got lost. When I turned 16 and got my license, Dad made me take a defensive driving course, a basic first aid class, and memorize the locations of every hospital between our house and my school. He bought me my own emergency kit for my car, smaller than his but just as thorough. I complained constantly about how over the top everything was. None of my friends' parents were like this. Why couldn't he just relax and trust that nothing bad would happen? During my junior year, I was driving home from soccer practice on Route 9 around 6 p.m. It was one of those December evenings where it gets dark early and the temperature drops fast. I was maybe 10 miles from home when I hit a patch of black ice going around a curve. My car slid sideways, flipped twice, and ended up upside down in a drainage ditch about 20 feet from the road. I was hanging from my seatbelt, completely disoriented, with blood running down my forehead from where my head hit the window. The car was smoking and making this horrible hissing sound. I could smell gasoline. My phone had flown somewhere during the crash and I couldn't find it in the dark. That's when all of Dad's crazy training kicked in like muscle memory. First thing, I checked if I could move my arms and legs. Everything seemed to work. Then I remembered Dad's voice saying, "In an upside down car, unbuckle carefully so you don't fall on your head." I braced myself against the roof and released the seatbelt. I tried the doors, but they were completely jammed from the impact. The windows were shattered, but not enough to climb through safely. The smoke was getting thicker and that gas smell was getting stronger. I remember Dad's emergency kit in my trunk. If I could somehow get to it, there might be something useful. I managed to squeeze through the gap between the front seats and pop the trunk from the inside release. Everything had scattered during the crash, but I found Dad's emergency hammer, the one with the pointed tip for breaking car windows. I used it to completely shatter my passenger window and crawled out onto the cold, muddy ground. My hands were cut up and I was dizzy, but I was alive and away from the car. That's when I remembered the most important part of Dad's emergency plan, the GPS beacon. He'd hidden this tiny device in my glove compartment that would send our family's location to emergency services if activated. I crawled back toward the car, reached through the broken window, and found it. One button press and it was transmitting my exact coordinates. While I waited, I used the emergency blanket from my kit to stay warm and the first aid supplies to clean up the cuts on my hands. I set up the battery-powered emergency light so rescuers could spot me easier. 20 minutes later, I heard sirens. The paramedics found me sitting next to my destroyed car, wrapped in foil like Dad's baked potato joke, but alive and conscious. They said if I'd stayed in the car much longer, the gas leak could have caused a fire. If I hadn't had the GPS beacon, it would have taken hours to find me in that ditch. The fire chief actually asked where I learned to handle the situation so well. My dad, I told him. He's been preparing me for this my entire life. I called Dad from the hospital after they stitched up my forehead. When I told him his emergency plan had worked exactly like he'd trained me, he started crying right there on the phone. "I always hoped you'd never need any of it," he said, "but I'm so proud of you for remembering what to do." 6 months later, Dad started teaching emergency preparedness classes at the community center. He uses my crash as his main example of why families need to plan ahead. Now I keep my own emergency kit in my car, and when my friends make jokes about it, I just tell them about the night my dad's paranoia saved my life. Emma started keeping one in her car too after she heard the whole story. Dad was right about everything. Sometimes being over-prepared is exactly what keeps you alive.